am Alethea Felton, and welcome to the Power Transformation Podcast. If you're struggling in your life with self-sabotaging and negative thoughts that leave you feeling stuck and limit you from moving forward, I can help you. As a holistic health and empowerment coach, I help people identify, challenge, and conquer those thoughts in order to make simple and practical changes to improve overall wellness. Let's remove those limitations, for the time is now to create your power transformation. Hey, y'all. Welcome back to another edition, another episode of the Power Transformation Podcast. I am your host, Alethea Felton, and thank you for joining me today. If you are new to this podcast, I welcome you. I welcome you. I welcome you. Thank you for being a part of the Power Transformation Podcast community. And hey, for everybody listening, did you know I have a weekly newsletter? It comes out every Thursday. And the way that you sign up for it, go to my website, www.aletheafelton.com. That's ALETHEAFELTON.com. And when you are up there, a pop-up will show up on my website where you can enter your email address and be added to my mailing list. That weekly newsletter gives some powerful pointers and tidbits that you can apply to your own life. I also share anecdotes connected to the tips I give. And coming down the road, you all, I'm going to be updating my website even more. And a lot more things are going to be coming down the line. So I want you to be a part of that. So again, go to www.aletheafelton.com and sign up for my weekly mailing list. Okay, y'all, we are going to get right into this episode. I think that you will definitely appreciate what I have to share today with you, because this is something that I've worked on in my life and I still do. So, as customary, we always start with an affirmation and we close out with an affirmation. This is the affirmation. I will say it once and you will repeat it. I set clear and healthy boundaries for my life and my peace of mind. I'm going to say it again, and you can repeat it again if you like. I set clear and healthy boundaries for my life and for my peace of mind. Yes, y'all, this episode is all about boundaries, and that seems to be a buzzword nowadays. But let me tell you, within the holistic health community, boundaries are key in what we as holistic health coaches, as well as life coaches, do. We help people set and keep boundaries. So you may wonder, what exactly is a boundary? What exactly is a boundary? So we'll just start from there. To put it very, very plainly, a boundary is a limit or a guideline that you set, within your relationship. And I'm not just talking about romantic, but any type of interaction with a person. Boundary is a limit or a guideline that you set within your relationship that defines what is safe, acceptable, and reasonable ways that other people can act or behave around you. Boundaries also will indicate how you will respond when someone crosses a line. But the thing about it is that You can't even have a boundary unless you set it. And these boundaries can be set with colleagues, people that you work with, complete strangers, acquaintances, your husband, your wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, partner, your family member, including your own children, your mom, your dad, your sibling, your cousin, your auntie, your uncle, and even with your friends. And when you have healthy boundaries, these boundaries do not compromise your ethics or your morals. They respect and value your opinion. And boundaries also accepts other people's limits. In other words, if you set a boundary for yourself and your life, you really can't get upset if someone sets a boundary with you. So I'm going to go through 5 ways to set and keep boundaries in your life. But I also want to let you know that boundaries can also be categorized. And I'm not going to go into that much depth about categories. I'm keeping it general today. But if you are taking notes or if you just want more awareness, also know that boundaries can be categorized under the following: mental boundaries, which are also considered intellectual, material boundaries, emotional boundaries, time boundaries, physical boundaries, talking about physical space or even personal touch, emotional boundaries. I could have said that. I'm sorry if I did. And then also sexual boundaries. And you might say sexual boundaries. Yes. Even in your romantic relationship or in your sex life or your love life, you can have sexual boundaries with your significant other or with your spouse. And that also can contribute to a wonderful, healthy sex life if you are clear on what you are willing to do and not do, even in the bedroom. But that's a whole other episode. Okay. So perhaps you have wanted to set boundaries. Maybe you have at some point, but have not been consistent in keeping them. And you're saying, Coach Alethea, Coach Lily, what do I do? How can I set these boundaries? Well, to even start with, understand that boundaries are important and they are critical. Because if you don't have certain boundaries in place, unhealthy boundaries can actually cause you to lose your own identity, and you can feel unsafe, and you might feel as if your needs aren't being met. And that can trigger dysfunctional relationships. And these are a few ways to recognize if you need to create boundaries. You need to create healthy boundaries if you overshare information, if you accept habitual disrespect or abuse, and I'm just not talking about physical abuse, but if you are constantly disrespected, you need to set boundaries. If you are dependent on other people's opinions, if you have difficulty saying no, if you have trouble accepting no, if you compromise your opinion or your own values for the sake of someone else's. And also, y'all, if you are overly involved in someone else's life and in their problems, then yeah, you need to accept boundaries. I love you, but you do. If you're a busybody, you need to accept boundaries. If you are constantly isolating yourself and you just don't trust anybody, you need to create healthy boundaries. And yes, it is so critical because when you don't have healthy boundaries, you can feel a sense of helplessness. It often leads to greater depression. And it is also something where it can cause resentment if you see others with healthy boundaries and you don't. So, one of the premises of the Power Transformation podcast, and that's why when I ask you to share, it's not about blowing me up, it's literally about not feeding my ego. It's literally about sharing this message with the world because so many people live in powerlessness of who they are and have not come to a certain consciousness about their existence. So many people just go through the motions and the rigmarole of everyday life without realizing this intrinsic, this internal power that we are all created with. And when we tap into our power, then we are transformed. And part of that transformation deals directly with setting boundaries. That is why I urge you to please share the Power Transformation podcast. It's bigger than me. This is a message that needs to go globally to make not only you, but others you know more productive, more effective, better people and humans. And then in turn, our world can be transformed. So how do you set or how do you set them and keep these boundaries? Number one, identify your limitations and your priorities. What's important to you? What won't you accept? If you have to start this process, write them down. Write down what causes you discomfort. What pushes you to the edge? What causes you to almost pop off? And I have an entire episode about anger and popping off. If you need to go back and even hear those tips on how to deal with your anger, that's episode 3. When you set your priorities, then you are clear on what you will and will not accept in your realm and in your life. What matters the most? Are you living your life for others, or are you truly living the life that you desire and choose to live? So that's step 1, is identifying those limitations and set your priorities. The second step to that is in correlation with that, or in addition to it, as you are identifying those limitations and setting your priorities, listen to your intuition by being self-aware. All of us have that still small voice. We all call it something different. Some might say it's the gut instinct. Others might say God. Others say spirit or Holy Spirit. Others say conscience. Whatever you choose to call it is not important when you are setting boundaries. But the fact of the matter is, know what your gut and your intuition are saying. And also think about your thoughts and your emotions. How are you feeling in that moment when you know, okay, I've got to set a healthy boundary in this area of my life? Perhaps it's a person that may live under the same roof with you. And maybe you're just getting to a point where you are feeling smothered by that person. You can never get any alone time. You always have to do for that person. You have to be at that person's every beck and call. And it doesn't matter who it is. You might be a caretaker. You might be a husband or a wife. You might even be a parent where you're just feeling pulled on every end. Now, I'm not talking about if you have babies and toddlers who depend on you, but maybe you have a teenage child who are so needy and clingy and need you for everything. If that child is not disabled or does not necessarily have to depend on you for everything, then you may need to set that healthy boundary. So think about your own self-awareness and what is your mindset saying to you? And once you listen to your intuition, then from there, you can transition into step 3. Once you have, number 1, identified limitations and priorities, and number 2, listen to your intuition. Number 3 of setting boundaries is that now you are at a point where you can be clear and direct in communicating what you will and will not tolerate. This can trip some people up because if you are the type of person who is not used to being assertive, not aggressive, there's a difference. Assertiveness is when you are direct and firm with your desires and your needs without belittling or berating someone else. This is the point where you want to get. So you have to talk about it. You have to communicate. So sometimes we make assumptions as human beings in thinking that people know what we are thinking. No, honey, no. Unless you open up that mouth and say what you mean and what you want, then ain't nothing gonna change. It's not gonna amount to a hill of beans. You hear what I say? Open your mouth, use your words. Use your words and your own strength to say what you're not going to accept. If you don't want to talk on the phone or accept text from a person after 9 o'clock p.m., and there's a person who's constantly expecting you to respond to them, it could be even your own employer. But if you know good and well that you just can't function after a certain time, you must be bold and brave enough to say, I turn off my phone at such and such time, but I will respond the next morning at this time. That's a clear example of a boundary. If a person wants you to go out and do something with them, and it might not be your speed or your style, and you really don't want to do it, a healthy boundary is something as simple as saying, I really appreciate you asking me, but no, I'm not interested in going. It's not you being rude. It's you standing your ground and keeping that healthy boundary. And if you have a problem saying no, don't worry, I got you covered. Go to episode 33 because that particular episode is entitled 5 Ways to Say No Directly and Politely. So that goes hand in hand. In order to create a boundary, you must share it. And you can't get angry if a person does not respect your boundary if you haven't said anything to them. So again, be clear and direct and be okay with saying no. Number 4, the 4th way to set and keep a boundary. Reinforce it by being consistent. Reinforce your boundary with any type of thing, including a habit. The only way a habit is kept is if you repeat it. Repeat it, y'all. Setting boundaries take time. Because first of all, when a person is used to you acting a certain way, when you start setting boundaries, that can be a bit uncomfortable for the other person involved, and it can be uncomfortable for you because you're not used to consistently acting in this way. And so, therefore, when you start upholding your boundaries, when you are firm in them, and when you reinforce it, it could cause some pushback from others. So, you have to repeat it. You have to reinforce it. You have to tell that person, listen, this is what I said, blah, 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 and say it again. Or you take the power in simply implementing that boundary. So I don't want you to walk away from this podcast today thinking that this is going to happen quickly. It takes time and practice. And it doesn't matter your age in life. You can be 84 years old and start setting boundaries. And you can be 21 years old and start setting boundaries. You can even be a teenager or preteen listening to this. And there might be certain boundaries you have to set for your own peace of mind. Now, for any children listening, I'm not saying to be disrespectful to your parent or guardian. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is you might have to set boundaries even with your own friends. Youth growing up today are under such an incredible amount of peer pressure. And if you are a young adult or even a teenager listening to this, if some of your so-called friends are just carrying on with a bunch of foolishness and nonsense and you want no parts of it, and perhaps you have been consistently participating in it, or may have even been the ringleader, it's okay to turn a new leaf on life, a new lease on life, and change your behavior by setting a boundary. So these boundary settings apply to anybody from any background, regardless of race, color, creed, religion. It doesn't matter. Because part of that human experience is living a life of abundance and prosperity beyond simply financial wealth. That's important. But also setting these emotional, healthy boundaries for your life will work wonders. So you must be consistent in communicating them and gently reminding people. And then also doing that starts to build, in a lot of ways, builds better trust with the other person that you are setting those boundaries with. Now, you can't control anybody. So if people still have a problem with it, then you may have to even say, you know what, I may need to step even farther back from that person. And the last way, the fifth way to set and keep boundaries, get the added help and support that you may need. As you're setting these boundaries, you definitely want to start them incrementally, meaning you don't want to necessarily push them all at once, maybe bit by bit. There's an old saying that says slow and steady wins the race. You have to pace yourself. This is not a sprint, it's a marathon. But maybe you're really finding it challenging. Perhaps maybe that first month or so you were great in it and then you're starting to fall off again. In that case, you may need to seek the support of a counselor, a life coach, a religious leader such as an imam, pastor, rabbi, some type of spiritual leader in your life, or it could be someone who's a mentor or just is a person that you hold in high regard, that's wise and you trust them, where they can help you reinforce boundaries, that they can remind you the importance of them. So don't feel that you have to go about this alone. Get the support that you need. All right. 5 ways to set and keep boundaries. I certainly hope that this is helpful for you. And I encourage you to share this episode with a couple of people that you know, so that they too can start developing in this area. And maybe you're already strong in setting boundaries. Well, this is a bit of reinforcement. It's kind of like a little tune-up, so to speak. We have to get our cars checked out, worked on, so that they can keep functioning properly. This is just a checkup for anybody that may need it, but it can be a start for someone who truly has had a challenging time in this area. I will be transparent. I used to have a very difficult time setting healthy boundaries, but I've lived, I've learned, and I'm going to continue learning until my last day on this planet, just as all of us. You never stop growing. And I am simply sharing practices that I've had to implement in my life and that I continue working on. So let's go ahead right now. And we are going to, hold on. I want to just say in advance, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you. I don't even know everybody listening, but I'm going to already speak it into existence. I'm proud of you for setting and keeping boundaries. Let's go ahead and close out with our affirmation. I'll say it once and you repeat it. I set clear and healthy boundaries for my life and for my peace of mind. If you enjoyed today's show, then you don't want to miss an episode. So follow the Power Transformation Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you usually listen, and remember to rate and review. I also invite you to connect with me on social media at Alethea Felton. That's at ALETHEAFELTON. Until next time, remember to be good to yourself and to others.